Okay, let's talk about what all the buzz is about. Hello everybody and welcome to the Gloving Paradigm, where I am your host, Peter, aka LPD Dubuque. And in this video, we're going to break everything that you need to know about the Gloving's newest product hitting the market, if it hasn't flooded it already. The Vortex Tethered Light Gloveset. Now, I know there's been a lot of talk about these things in a few live streams on YouTube that you guys can go watch. Even the highlight reels on the same channel, right here. Go have fun. But before we break down these lovely little bad boys, we first need to step back to see how gloving technology has evolved over the years and what we've learned from the past. Because it's extremely important to know these things. And it's also extremely important to know that this is not the first time this has been attempted before, in some variation. So let's get into it. Gloving has had different amalgamations of glove sets throughout its lifetime. And in those times, we've seen different companies try their hands at making the next big thing. Now, if we were to line up which product came out chronologically, we start to see a more natural progression occurring here. We have novelty gloves that were the pre-wired sets, being the lowest cost to produce product. And you can see why this is not a practical way to design your glove set. Because these things broke so fast, it's not even funny. Wow. However, this did provide a proof of concept, which we'll get back to that in a little bit. Then we had bulb microlights coming into the fray, with a resultant explosion with different lights from various companies. We got the Drop series, the iNova series, the Bit series, the Micromax series, the list goes on and on. I'm not even kidding you how many times this goes on. This is what's going to set up the next stage of lights with the standardization of chip sizes. We also get to see how concepts within gloving also evolve alongside with the technology, both with the lights as well as things like videography and content. All this did is pave the way for making microlights programmable, cutting out much of the tedium that is the upkeep maintenance of bulb style chips. This also redefined the chip sizes based on their battery size, being Nova size, coin size, nano size, with the exception of the Throw Lights Apollos, which are coin size but use 1225s, just saying. We also had one company attempt at making rechargeable batteries with a recharge pack, drawing this idea from the pre-wired set. But the lights can still do their own thing. Now, this thing had some major problems, but keep in mind that we did try to solve the ongoing consumption of coin cell batteries that keeps the industry alive with mad profits. Point to capitalism? How dare you! Okay, now before going into some smaller semantic additions to the programming, I need to go into the first major paradigm shift that redefined gloving's landscape, the accelerometer. In 2014, a small company out of California, I think that's where they are. I need to work better on my research. Came out with a new programmable microlight called the Kinetic, in which it became the first motion reactive microlight on the market. This gave us ways to manipulate the colors and flash patterns based on the speed and directionality, all by just moving our hands and fingers around. This shook up the gloving scene a lot more than what people give it credit for, even to the point where the top leading company scrambled to copy it, rather haphazardly, but we're not going to get into that, and create a new design space for how our lights operate. Now, let's take a moment here and look at the lineup of programmable lights we have had over the years. Do you notice something here? No? They all have the same user interface. Now, you may be asking me, why does this matter? It seems trivial to care about that. Well, this is actually a bottleneck on how one can design and utilize the microlight to its fullest extent. Granted, we have had some quality of life additions that really help streamline many of the tedium that we still faced. We got the flick feature that is a simple flick that allows you to go back one action, like a wrong selected color or accidentally clicking beyond the desired color. Though the Apollos have the feature that if you just wait until the brightness cycle ends before moving on, you don't select that color. Again, semantics. We also got chip-to-chip communication and Bluetooth transfer, which helped the process further to the point where you just need to program a single microlight and sending the program to the other lights to make a whole set. The OSMs were also the first open source microlight, hence the name, that Gloving had at its disposal, but we're not going to go down that rabbit hole of a debacle. However, it's important to note that it was significant to Gloving technology.
What about the pixels?
We don't talk about those.
Yeah, I'm a bad bitch. You can't kill me.
While these improvements were very much needed, they still had their shortcomings, mainly chip-to-chip communication and the Bluetooth transfer. Chip-to-chip worked really well, but the timer window, in my opinion, was too long and it drained the batteries just to receive the data being transmitted. Granted, to receive the data being transmitted takes a lot of power. Just want to point that out. If the window was shorter, like to 30 seconds, it would have been perfect in my opinion. Bluetooth transfer allowed for a third-party app, third-party meaning a device outside of the product, to create, save, and share your glove sets with an online community category on the said app. Then you just need to send your sets to a microlight that can then send them to your microlights, called the hub, which I know sounds a little confusing, but that's what it was. The hub came with its own set of problems, mostly just not communicating properly if it could connect at all. It also had issues with battery consumption along with using a different battery size from the norm, probably to make more money taking a page out of Apple's book, just saying. Finally, the application designed with the Bluetooth transfer has probably the biggest issue of them all. It doesn't work on any Android device, and it's really faulty on Apple devices, which this causes people to have a product that they're unable to utilize to its fullest extent. And we haven't even covered the company that made this product, but that's for another video down the road, so keep an eye out for that.
I heard that. I wish I didn't hear that, but I just heard that.
Now that we've covered all the great developments that Gloving has received over its lifespan, we can finally start talking about the very thing you wanted to see.
Yes! Yes!
Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. The Vortex is the newest iteration of gloves that spawned from all previous iterations beforehand, making the next natural step in gloving technology. So let's break the sucker down. First, we have the smallest finger lights with 2 neopixels on each finger ever on the market. Over 100 colors with saturation and brightness settings, which as far as I can tell, it's at least 144 and there might be more. I don't know, we gotta double check that. Over 30 crafted flash patterns with introduction of sequence flash patterns and hybrid sets. We also have a full randomizer, a USB port for open source programming, infrared chip communication, multi-bulb user interface, rechargeable batteries, an on-off switch for battery preservation, and the big, huge key here is interchangeable and replaceable parts. Okay, so I don't think I need to go into the whole nuanced details of the color selections or the flash patterns, because we kind of already know that. But I will certainly say this, with the open source programming that we have available to us with this product, we have more colors at our disposal and more flash patterns that we can create. Okay, so we pretty much are at the point of we're at endless possibilities when it comes to colors and flash patterns. So I don't think I need to go into that more. Here are the things I do want to say. The 3 biggest game changers, in my opinion, that this brings is the multi-bulb user interface, rechargeable batteries, and interchangeable replaceable parts. Those are your big 3 right here, okay? So, multi-bulb interface is a huge deal. I am the person who's put myself in the position where I'm not a very well experienced person in programming. Yes, I do have programming experience from the military, so I know how to make 2 computers talk to each other. That's the extent of programming I have. Just want to point that out. But I'm trying to put myself in the position of a possible potential customer who doesn't have that kind of experience and is going to rely on the built-in user interface. So 144 colors, I'm okay with. Over 30 flash patterns, awesome, I can work with that. And trust me, we're going to get into the sequence flash patterns here in a little bit. Trust me, don't worry. The other thing is that rechargeable batteries. Yes, this is something that we've all been kind of wanting for like the longest time. And yes, we did technically have it with the eCharge pack. But I already stated before that they already has major sensor problems. And guess what? It got discontinued, so you can't get it anymore. Go figure, right? But this just saves so much time on everybody's hands. So all you have to really do is just charge your chips 30 minutes before you go in, or 30 minutes before you leave to go to the event, whatever the case may be. And guess what? You can always just bring a little battery pack with you. So if they do die during the festival season, you can just charge it up right there, and boom, there you go. You go have some more fun. Yay! Lastly, but not least, and the most important thing in my opinion, is the interchangeable and replaceable parts. So we all know that pre-wires was a really interesting concept. It worked in its fashion, to the point that even Amazing Lights made a programmable version of it called the Electro V2. I was actually kind of surprised to find that out. But they still run the issue of breaking down, and once they've broken down, you can't fix it. If you try to fix it, you're going to void the warranty and all that stuff, and I don't think we need to get into that. So what the Vortexes is actually bringing to the table for what it is huge. And the interchangeable replaceable parts, in my opinion, is probably the biggest one, because yes, the startup is going to be a lot up front, but the amount that you're going to be paying into just to keep it up is going to be much less. So we solved a lot of problems and also gained a few problems by doing what we're doing here with the Vortexes. Okay, so instead of having them sewn into the gloves and actually have the inner line with the Velcro and all that stuff like the Electros had, we're unlocking that part. That way we can actually pull them out, and not only that, you are able to put on different diffusers. So we're already showing here right now that we have new design space just by what Shane has been able to do by making the Vortexes. Okay, I mean, Glow LED is making more products out of its butt than I actually realized that I was making. No, not a problem with that. I think it's fantastic. Kurt's doing the Lord's work for the gloving community, and we need more people like him. Keep doing what you're doing, Kurt. But okay, so you guys pretty much understand the breakdown. If you want a more full, in-depth breakdown tutorial that I felt was really informative and really in-depth, go watch Rick's tutorial. It's going to be right over here. You know, links in the description below, but here you go. Look at it. It's so pretty. All right. And there will also be a link to Shane's tutorial, which is like 8 minutes long. It's really short if you really want the brass tacks of how to do the things that you're doing with it, right? Now, granted, I will certainly tell you this right now. These tutorials might become obsolete down the road. And it's just because with all the new developments that's going on with this new product, things are going to get a little bit more streamlined over time. So just keep that in mind. And it's probably why I have not made a full review of this product yet, because there's so much changes happening with it already that I don't want to make a video that immediately becomes obsolete within a matter of weeks. Yeah. So now that we know how it's broken down, and you guys already have more resources to see the more full in-depth breakdown of the tutorials and programming, let's talk about the design space that this brings.
Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop.
Well, we are essentially able to recreate whatever gloves that we have made in the past and still make more of our classic setups. I think I need to address something that I don't think most people realize. We are working within an explored territory of gloving technology, yes, but with advancements into a completely new category. What do I mean by this? While some people can see this redefine the landscape of gloving, myself included, this isn't going to replace what we have been using for over a decade now. Microlights have their place in the art and community, so I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. Just look at the bulb market, for crying out loud. I do believe that we still have room for innovation with the microlight, but that will only increase things with it marginally. Tethered Light Glovesets are a completely new style of gloving product that a person can utilize if it suits their needs. Instead of 10 completely independent computers on our fingers, we get 2 motherboards where it can operate 10 lights in a series, creating a whole new category of flash pattern design space we never had accessible to gloving previously. Before I go into that, it needs to be remarked that we get other goodies with this setup, namely the remote button attachment and extra ports for additional palm light. We also have a built-in light on the motherboard itself for a backlight feature when activated through the open source programming, which will be coming soon. So with this, we can actually have completely different styles of crafting a glove set that can fulfill things that microlights cannot provide. Now on to new flash pattern design. Sequence flash patterns are essentially a programming that looks at the lights as part of a single bulb rather than 10 separate lights. This allows for idle hands to appear differently as opposed to in motion, leading to a possible new outlet to create concepts with the manipulation and utilization of these patterns, similar to how accelerometers spawn teleporting. We have patterns like wipe, warp, jip, worm, lighthouse, zigzag, and many more to be created. This is what makes people like me feel like being in a brewer's paradise, because I have new ways to manipulate my lights with new configurations, just by how my lights operate. On top of all of this, the Vortex is open source, so this allows you to create flash patterns and configurations that are not available with the internal programming, giving the person full control capabilities that only 2 previous products offered. Now, I know not many of us are programmers and even have a hard time with programming sets with the lights themselves, but I think this new interface certainly makes it easier now. Of course, the randomizer is there if you just don't have the time to make something and you let the gloves do it themselves. In time, there should be a separate application that allows users to modulate their gloves to the fullest extent, similar to how the Spectre app, but not using Bluetooth. If every phone came with an infrared sensor, which they did but it became obsolete, that can transmit data, then they can have a phone app that wouldn't need a hub for any sort to accomplish the same goal. The chip communication technology is something that can be improved upon, sure, but that's something that will come in time with testing, and I don't have any issue using infrared, as I have used it previously in the past with my military service. Overall, this is something that the gloving community was desperate to have happen to it. Why? Because we were losing outlets for gloving products. And it's time for gloving to branch out into new territories that I may never tried before. Sure, we have had pre-wire sets and the rechargeable battery pack, so we are working with something familiar, but now offering something fresh and new never ventured before. That is why it was desperate for something to shake it up, but not making the previous iterations obsolete at the same time. And who knows, this may even open up new possibilities for newer products with or without the wires. Maybe even without the gloves themselves. Though I think the gloves serve as something greater than just holding lights in place, that's just my thought. However, there is this video that serves as proof of concept for gloveless light shows. Now you may be wondering yourself, what is the price when it comes to the Vortexes? Well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is a big, big number. Yeah, so for the measly price of $265, at least I think that's what the price point at. You'll see down here the actual price point in post. But yeah, it's a big chunk of money to drop on a product like this, which is totally understandable to a lot of people who might not like the idea of dropping nearly $300 on a gloving product. However, what you are getting is literally worth the price because you have the interchangeable and replaceable parts. If that wasn't a thing, I would definitely be on the side that goes, I don't think this is going to be a product for me because of that price point. But we solved that problem with interchangeable parts and replaceable parts. It's the best thing about it. Now, if you ask me how much those replaceable parts are, you usually get bundles of 10, and especially when it comes to the wires, and it's usually around like 10 or 15 bucks. So yeah, granted, we haven't fully tested all the wires yet because we're still testing the longevity of these wires. I can certainly tell you that these wires can take a beating, especially the flat wear ones that Shane has actually purchased and is now putting it as the standard instead of the ones that I currently have. But I'll certainly tell you this, it has been well over 3 months and I only had one wire actually break on me so far. And that was actually the first iteration of the wires where they didn't have the little heat wrap on joints. So keep that in mind. So if the ones that are heat wrapped like I have last 3 months, imagine how much those industrial wires that are flat wires can last. I don't see a huge issue paying that much money for it, especially when the upkeep cost is way significantly lower than what people are thinking. So, yeah. But that is it. That is all for my video. I certainly hope you guys enjoyed what I had to say in this episode, because there was a lot to talk about. Yes, there are still a lot of finer details that I can go into, like what do I mean by working in a series. So just to summarize that very shortly here, is that in a series it's going from one end to another instead of looking at in parallel, which is doing it at the same time. There are some concerns that I have with that, and I have addressed that with Shane, and Shane has explained to me the difficulty of doing the changes that I have suggested to him. So we have to be very vocal with Shane to let him know when we have problems that arise, because the more that people have it, the more easily it's going to be for him to be motivated to make those changes. I'm not saying to harass him. Please, for the love of God, do not do that. That is the last thing that we need to do to anybody in this community right now. But definitely make your voices and your concerns and your opinions heard. That way he can take that feedback and design better products from there. Because the only place that we're going from here is up when it comes to the Vortexes. Is there going to be other companies coming out with their own products very similar to the Vortexes? Sure, I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen, because that's just how business works. I really feel like there's times where I feel like I have to give an economics class to explain the things that I talk about. I'm not going to. But yes, other than that, thank you so much for watching. I certainly hope you guys enjoy what I had to say in this video. You guys have no idea how much I appreciate you guys coming to watch. If you want to help me out in any way, the free options that you always can do, it literally takes about 30 seconds of your time altogether, is to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Share this video, leave a comment, all the normal shill YouTube stuff. And of course, you guys can also help me out by donating to my Ko-Fi, because it's there. Those $1 a month goes a long way helping me out. So just saying. But yep, other than that, I don't think I need to go any further. So thank you so much for watching. But I am your host, Peter, aka LPG the Buke, and I'll see you guys all next time.